Hey, what's up, awesome Patreons? Welcome to this week's Q&A. It's a day early because I got to go out to a wedding tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure not to miss. Before I jump into the Q&A stuff, though, I have two questions for all of you. First, would you be interested or even care if I released the weekly podcast to you as soon as it's done? So usually I finish it by Tuesday evening, and then I upload it to YouTube, and then, after it processes and all that stuff, I add the timestamps and make the little thumbnail and everything. And then the next morning, I usually just release it to everybody. Would anybody be interested if, as soon as it was up, I just released it Patreon only at first? I'm not sure if that's more of an annoyance or not. And there are going to be some days where I don't finish till Wednesday morning. There were a whole bunch of times where the recording ended, the editing, and then I hit render, went to bed, woke up, and then put it on YouTube and all that. So let me know what you think about that, because I'm really just trying to think of little things I could do to just give cool little bonuses for all the awesome people that have been contributing. And the other question I had was, the other day I got a new piece of hardware and I was like, oh, let me try this out. And then I thought, hey, maybe I should do a Patreon only stream just for fun. But then I realized it's like 3 p.m. Eastern time on like a Monday. And how many Patreons would see that email for the 45 minutes that I'd be streaming? So is that something that sporadic streams like that? Is that something anybody would be interested in, or should I just really stick to maybe do a planned stream at some point? But anytime I just go up randomly, just launch it to the world, tweet it out, and then see if anybody's around. But I would really like your opinions on both of those things. I'm trying to find extra little ways to give back and without causing more of an annoyance than anything else. So please let me know what you think, but let's jump into the questions. First up, Darren Coleman asked, is it possible to download audio-only versions via Patreon? So I did that a few weeks ago, and I'm not sure, I didn't get any feedback on that at all. But I'll do it again this week, and hopefully I will get the Patreon section of the website up soon too. There is a plugin that looks very cool, and if as long as I could verify that it works the way it should, then I'll implement that as soon as I can. But yeah, I'll throw an MP3 of that up today, and let me know if that works for everybody. But I think it would be a little cooler to try to host it and launch right from the website. But just let me know next week what you think. Next, Mike W. said, on your cleaning cartridges page, there's a graphic with the word no in big red letters in reference to going side to side with the alcohol Q-tip rather than up and down. I'm very sorry, but that's actually a misinterpretation. What I meant here is, yes, you should be scrubbing on the contacts, and no, you should not be scrubbing on these. So that wasn't the direction to scrub in, I'm sorry, I'll try to reword that. But all I meant by that was, sometimes when you're scrubbing these contacts, you could put a little too much pressure. And as long as you're scrubbing with the soft side of a Q-tip with isopropyl alcohol, you should be totally fine scrubbing the contacts. But if you go up too high, I know some big, strong people that might hit one of those surface mount components and knock it right off. So you don't want to do that. That's the only reason why I suggested it. But to be honest, you could actually scrub that whole board in isopropyl, and I've had games that it seemed like somebody spilled a can of soda on it that were really gross. So I ended up taking it looked like a toothbrush, but it's meant more for electrical components, and just dousing the whole thing in isopropyl and scrubbing. And I think I just scrubbed every way, just like brushing your teeth, up, down, circles, whatever. So sorry for the misinterpretation. And also, you mentioned that there was a typo on the page, and in fact, on the heading of the page. Thank you for calling that out. So the software that I used to use previously did not have built-in spell check. So I did most things by eye, which is why there's usually an error or two on each page. And sometimes I would import them into like a Google email just to see if something popped up. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of it. Also, there's a few more replies about cleaning cartridges and all that stuff. Really, I'm going to be doing another video on that at some point soon. I do want to clarify everything. After everything I've learned over the years, I would still use Brasso, but only in a very, very specific scenario. Whereas before I understood how dangerous it was, I would use it before some of the new methods. But unlike a lot of the other people's videos, and no disrespect, a lot of these popular YouTubers know that they're catering to a general crowd, which is totally fine. I usually make videos for me and my friends, which are usually people that take that the technical side of things are a little more important to them. So fellow nerds like I'm sure most people watching. So I'm going to actually take a USB microscope and show you what exactly happens to these contacts, and then why sometimes you need to use different methods than others, and show exactly what happens when you take metal cleaner to these things. So it's coming soon enough. I'm still catching up on everything, all the other craziness. But I do think it's something important, because while I don't think it's for the mainstream, I think your average collector is not going to sit through a 20-minute video about, about why. I think at least the opening might clear everything up, but hopefully it'll catch on, and hopefully some of the popular YouTubers will watch mine and then remake their others in their own words. But who knows? Either way, for now, just don't use super abrasive things. The best advice I can give: clean first with isopropyl, then get a pink eraser, like a pencil eraser, not the one on the pencil, but the actual eraser itself. Scrub with that as much as you want. That'll take off most of the impurities, and then once again with isopropyl. But if your contacts are rusty or rotted after that, it's kind of a hard decision on what you want to do from there. But I'll have the video out as soon as I can. Conrad Klaus was asking if there's a good place to get information on where to start for soldering. He said that he's looking to get into it with some simple mods and just wants some basic recommendations. I do have a slightly outdated modding tools page on the site that just gives links to things like the game bits, shows examples of some of the basic tools that I've used over the years, which are very cheap. This is an old toolkit I got, but you could actually get new ones on Amazon for like $18 that cover every bit that's not a game bit. And then it does have links to which flux and solder that you should use, and it's recommended that you should match the type. So I do have the links right here for Amazon for you. Also, any kind of soldering station where you can control the temperature is good to start. There's different opinions on which one is your best first one to go with, but I would just go with the cheapest. At the very least, maybe you'll get one for 50 bucks and you'll only use it 5 times, so there you go, perfect. But if you get one and you end up loving soldering and you want to spend some real money, as long as you have the space for it, it never hurts to have a spare of something in a box somewhere. So I would just go with the cheapest one possible. And while you're at it, definitely pick up a multimeter. You can't see it here, but there's links on this page over to the right, which I think you kind of can. But any basic multimeter, so like the ones here are $10, $8. As long as you could test resistance and continuity, you'll be fine, and you just need a cheap multimeter for that. So that should pretty much take care of what you need. EEV Blog has a tutorial about what they recommend, but I think they're probably going to recommend things that are a bit more expensive. Either way, the tools page is a good place to start, and if you have any other questions, just let me know for next week. Sterling Ferentz very generously offered to help edit the new website, things like spelling, grammar, and formatting, and I would absolutely love to have help when I'm ready to open the site up. I first still need to make sure everything is running the way I need to. I still have to catch up with a bunch of stuff. But also, I want to make sure to set a vision and guidelines in place so that there's never any confusion as to what's expected. I mean that in a very nice and positive way, because what I eventually want to do is open the site up so that anybody that has an account could write articles or add guides, and maybe treat this as kind of like the test and the practice for the Open Wiki. I still eventually want to do that, but because of the way the site is formatted now, anybody that contributes to this, whether it's a guide or anything else, it could be easily transferred to anything that happens next. So if in a few years RetroRGB were to become just a news site and all of the guides go to a wiki, anybody that contributed doesn't have to rewrite. We could just pull them right over. So I would really like to have that. I would welcome any help. I just am not quite ready for it. And also, I want to be able to set very, very clear guidelines. So if you write a news article, you have to, no sided opinions, no, just like at a bar, no religion and politics, like whatever rules to set, just to make sure that it stays about tech and really doesn't let anything else get in the way. And also with the guides. When I first started the website, I had no intention of making it a website. This was going to be a Google Doc that I shared with my friends. So a lot of the stuff that I had on there was basically yeah, I tried it and it worked, so it should be fine. And luckily I've gotten rid of all that over the years, but I want to avoid that. I want there to be clear guidelines on what it takes to be able to post a guide and what testing needs to be done. And especially things like, hey, here's a guide that no one's ever written before. I've only tested on one console. Please contact us if you have different results. Like little things like that, because at the end of the day, I want the new version of RetroRGB to be a site that people can stay up to date with everything that's going on in the retro gaming world, as well as learn anything they need to for any of the consoles that they want to work on, and contribute if they would like. So I want to make sure that I do that in the most diplomatic way possible, where everybody from the people that are reading to the people that are contributing and so on and so forth are all completely on board. So I just don't want anybody to start contributing now and wonder why I may have said, no, I'm rewriting that, or no, I can't post that. Like I would feel really bad if people started that, or if I did that to people who spent the time on it. So I hope that all came out the right way. I hope I don't sound like unappreciative or anything. I got to get my feet firmly planted, set what I want the site to be like, and then kind of let everybody run with that. Because really, at the end of the day, regardless of my human faults, sometimes I get pissed, sometimes I get grumpy, sometimes I snap at people. Every page on that website is 100% accurate to whatever it is that I have found. So if there's emotion in a page, it's because it's all fact. There's two different spots where I say you might not want to buy from this store because that's a fact. That's not like I was angry because they. So I think I'm just rambling at this point. Thank you, Sterling, for for offering, and thank you to everybody else that has emailed me and offered to write articles and guides. I will get to it as soon as I can. I want to just kind of maybe add one or two more friends in. Smoke Monster's been doing a great job, and he and I were exactly on the same page for all the articles he's written. So it's so far so good, but just give me a little more time. It's a Serial Wow asked, is there a device or downscaler that you know of that will display 16:9 content on a 4:3 display as a cropped centered image rather than a compressed image? Compressed meaning, squished top to bottom. For example, there are games that are originally 4:3 that were rendered on newer consoles with 16:9. Yeah, I've seen those before. So yeah, I think I know of a few devices out there that are able to do this. There's one device that acts as a downscaler and allows you to control things like that. That I spent a few hours with Carsey, the streamer, trying to get working, and we could not. So I've had a few people contact me, offer to help. That's one of the many demos and guides that I wanted to write that got killed halfway because it stopped working. But I will have some info on that soon. I just want to test before I make a recommendation, because there's a chance that I might recommend a $100 device that doesn't work, and I would always feel awful doing that. I've only made really bad recommendations once or twice, and it still bothers me. So give me a couple weeks, and I'll see what I can do. And if it's something you need right now, maybe private message me or something, and I'll send you a couple links on forums that you could check out. Jacob Proctor said, for trusted modders, maybe try something like a page where people can nominate modders for review. Then if they get enough nominations or recommendations, they can be added with a ratings reviews component attached. I like it. So on each mod page, I'm not going to link to specific modders anymore once this is solved. I'm only going to link to the trusted modders page. And that way each modder, so it doesn't matter if you're on the N64 or the Super Nintendo page, click here for a link of trusted modders, and then a list probably separated by country, and then, whatever the modder name is, Bob's Mods, and then the list of the consoles. I think that the review portion of things is probably a great idea, with the minimum requirement being you got to post either your real name or your screen name and a picture of the mod. That way it's, people can't just, but it would be harder for people to fake it. People could hack anything they want. But I like the idea of reviews because I've seen a lot of modders put out some days good work and some days phenomenal work, because we're all human beings. Nobody is running at 100% every day. So, I've seen mod work from people that I didn't think was the same person, because Maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they ran out of time, but I look at one and I see no cold solder joints, everything's in the right place. This is definitely not a bad mod at all. But then I look at work from them a month or two later where it's like, this is a freaking work of art. Like everything's perfect. Nobody could do it better than this. So I think the review part of things is great because, everybody makes mistakes. Sometimes two people just can't get along. That's life, right? So if you have reviews that are contradicting, people could come to their own conclusions. So I like that idea. And that also removes retro RGB as part of it. So while my site would host that page, I think because it's not anybody that would contribute to the site writing the reviews, it's not a reflection. It's like when people write a Yelp review, nobody in their right mind thinks that Yelp is writing the review. They're going there to read other people's reviews. So I think that's a good idea, and I think that might be the way to go. So please keep them coming, any ideas that you have, and I'll see if, once I'm caught up, maybe that's a way that we could start implementing things. But yeah, the other question I guess would be how many nominations or recommendations would somebody need before they get added to that list? I don't know, it's a lot riding on this because I certainly don't want to alienate good modders that deserve the recognition, and I certainly don't want people just posting their services up and ending up, I don't want other people losing money because of a recommendation posted on the site that I created. But I love it, keep them coming please. Mark Fritz had two questions. First, he asked if anybody knows where to get good shielded component cables. The HD Retrovision ones I think are still available from their resellers. Check their site to links to the resellers to be sure. But other than that, a few people had recommended different ones over the years, and some of them I had time to test, others I didn't. But to really truly test, you have to put it on a scope and then cut it open to make sure they're built right on the inside. And I haven't gotten around to doing any of that. What I do know is, though, that the higher resolution, the more these things definitely matter. So, for example, if you take those HD Retrovision component cables and you're running 1080p, you will see a difference clear as day between a mediocre or a bad set. So I believe the only recommendation I heard from people that was consistent was some of the old Monster cables that were like $100 each at Best Buy. You can get them for like $30, new old stock even on eBay. So maybe check those out, and if anybody has any recommendations that they're confident saying, yes, these are awesome, please post down below. And the other question was, does anybody have recommendations for a great TV with low input lag and good OSSC support? The TCLs that I've tested have that. I still don't have mine in. I'm still waiting to get other furniture so I can decide what size to get to match that other furniture. But some people have had good luck with Vizios. I have not. Voltar used to swear by his until a couple of pixels died, and now he hates Vizios. Other people, Ace actually recommended some of the LG TVs that were out there, but it's very hard recommending flat screens because each size could have could react different. You never know what you're going to get with these large runs of manufacturing. Maybe, I guess once again, maybe this is just another reason why I need to open up parts of the site as soon as I can, so people could post their own results with, lag test pictures, model numbers, sizes, and really just prove to each other the way us nerds should how each TV works, and not just like, yeah, I don't feel any lag in this one. So I'm sorry I don't have a solid info on either of those questions, but at the very least, I can tell you that if you could find the HD Retrovision component cables, they'll be perfect. And the TCL TVs that I test, I will post actual numbers up with it. So if yours doesn't perform the same, it would just be a very case of bad luck, not misinformation. So I'll get it soon enough, I hope. David Kenyon had a great question that I'm starting to get asked all the time, and now, once again, reason number 1,000,000 why I really need to update the RGB monitor section of the website. But he asked, do you know of any CRTs that have component inputs that handle 240p properly? As far as I know, any CRT that only handles 240p and 480i, so no progressive 480p support, as far as I know, all of them handle 240p properly. I have never seen one that doesn't. The problem is when you start to get to CRTs that handle 480p and above, it really depends on what kind of processor they're using. So Scott's 16:9 TV, that processed everything into 1080i. So I don't know if it processed 240p correctly or not, but it wouldn't matter because it spit it out as a 1080i image. Some of them have like an ATI video card in it that actually is the video chip. It's pretty much being everything that goes through is being processed. And there's a time and a place for that. If if you love PlayStation 2 widescreen games and they're mostly 480i, having it scaled to 1080i like that would probably look amazing. It certainly did on Scott's TV. So to answer your question directly, as long as it doesn't support 480p or higher, you should be totally fine. And if not, let me know. I would love to know which model. But I would like to know if there's a 480p tube that runs everything at its original resolution, just like the BVMs and PVMs do. And I don't know if a consumer grade TV like that exists. People have said so, but I don't think I've gotten actual model numbers. And I take that back. I think people have sent me model numbers, but I haven't found the TVs myself to test. So anybody with that info, post down below, and hopefully I'll get the RGB monitor section gutted and redone soon, so all of this would be easier for people to know. Firebrand X posted in regards to the 78S05 voltage regulator, and he posted the link to the newer ones that are not discontinued, which I actually have a ton of them right here that just showed up from Mouser. And he said the only difference is the thickness of the heatsink, which is exactly what I need to test. So I'm going to get some thermocouples. You could use some pretty cheap devices to test that. And I'm going to put 2 of these in my old Genesis and try to crank it up and see what I could do. I think the best test for practical use would be to put it put a cardboard box over it to generate more heat than normal, and to run the originals. Take those temperature measurements, and then take it out, clean it out, and put the new ones in. I'll do it without thermal paste at first, and run those and see what the difference is. Now, while that might seem a little hysterical and not very scientific, it's, as far as I know, more than anybody else in the retro gaming world has done. And it is my opinion, so please, any engineers watching, please chime in on this. It's my opinion that if these new regulators in that scenario run cooler than stock, then I would confidently say use them, like it's fine. If they run the same or hotter, that's when I think it would need more research. Because while of course there's different ways to make things run hotter and there's different ways to create heat chambers, I do have a lot of experience with heat testing for that other company that I used to work for. And believe it or not, that cardboard box scenario would be a great help in these situations. So if anybody disagrees, or if there's any engineers out there with any other tips, I really think I would love to hear it, because I just think that as long as they run, as far as I can tell, cooler, then it should be fine. Because with heat dissipation, just a slight difference in the thickness of the heatsink might make a big difference in how the heat gets dissipated across. So I love this stuff. This is super nerdy, but I could spend all day doing thermal testing and at the end of the day feel fulfilled. So I don't want to nerd out too far on you guys, but thanks FBX, and any engineers watching this, please chime in and let me know what you think. Phil Welker said, Insurrection Industries have been posting some pretty exciting things on their Twitter, and their website looks like they know what they're talking about. Don't be fooled by websites that look like they know what they're talking about. Have you heard anything about them, positive or negative? Well, I know nothing about them other than Matt Buxton chose them to be the OSSC's US repair shop, which that's going to speak for itself, because I've known Matt for years, and I don't think he would just blindly hand the keys to his repair shop over to anybody. So that's certainly a positive. And I actually have one of their cables. I had somebody else buy it and ship it to me because I have trust issues. What could I say? I didn't want Retro RGB to buy a cable. I wanted it representative of exactly what a consumer would get when they bought it. It shipped right away. It arrived quickly. And electrically speaking, it's perfect. So that means that at least the SNES cable, you could plug in and you don't have to worry about it hurting any of your SCART equipment. As far as build quality, I haven't popped open the console end yet, but opening the SCART end, all the correct components were there, and it was not a shielded cable, which they never said it was a fully shielded cable. I just wanted to put that out there. So I'll do further testing, but all I can say about them now is they're a real store, because we bought something and got it. and electrically speaking, their SNES cable is fine. And I'm going to do my usual subjective tests, the link tests and zooming in and see how it compares to the rest. But I mean, so far it's looking like they're a positive shop, so I'll keep everybody updated. Ronnie Batik had a question about the SSD S3. And did I even get your name remotely right? I promise I really do try my best to pronounce everybody's names properly. I'm a stupid American that only speaks English, so I have a really hard time with names that aren't, you know, like Bob, 3 letters. So I'm very sorry. But the question was basically, does the RGB mod on the PC Engine use the original video processor or its own type? Which I think is a great question. Very often I go off on these rants about technology and forget that your average gamer plays games, and people like me spend more time messing with hardware than actually playing with games. So to back up and to say what I probably should have said from the beginning, the SSD S3 takes the signals from the video chip on the PC Engine or TurboGrafx. Those signals are available directly on that back port, and that amplifies them, attenuates, which means gets the voltage and brightness to the proper level, which is not subjective. That is something that there are specifications for, and then sends that out, you know, to your display. So yeah, it is definitely using the same video. And how does it compare to an internal mod? Well, essentially, an internal mod will do exactly the same thing. The only issue is that how the circuit on the SSD S3 was built. So on the Voltar IFU board, his RGB mod for the SSD S3, what that essentially does is, electrically speaking, make the output match what his internal mod does. There's been a lot of testing, and people that are Patreons as well. FirebrandX himself has done a lot of testing on this. But there's been a lot of testing with people that have done the mod, and some people, depending on your version of the console, are having alright results, and other people are having excellent, flawless results that are exactly the same. So at the moment, I still, if you would fall into that category, if, you know, miraculously speaking, you have the exact motherboard that's been proven, it's in good condition, you did the capacitor fix and make sure everything else is working, and then you took an SSD S3 that's been properly modded, I think it would be excellent. And I think while it's, you know, it's not going to be the purest solution, meaning that you're still not going to put a CD-ROM in, you're still not going to slide your Hue card in. I think from an actual user standpoint, I think it would be perfect. It's just, the reason I keep ranting about it is there's no reason why it could have been that quality straight out of the box. There's no good reason why you have to spend time and money modding a product that could be perfect to begin with. So I hope that was a decent explanation. And if not, please post down below and I'll re-answer it next week. And let me know if I got your name right. I'm very sorry. Spencer NB had a suggestion for growing my channel. He thought maybe I can go on and do videos with other YouTubers on their channel and help promote my own. I think that's a really great idea, and I've had the offer out there for years. So if anybody knows any bigger YouTubers that, even if they just need a quick 2-second, like, hey, it's Bob from RetroRGB, this is what lag is, and then and that's it. I'd love to help. I've always put the offer out there. I've asked to do collaborations, and you know, it just hasn't happened yet. But if you know anybody that might be interested, I mean, I'm always down to help anybody, and I certainly would love a chance to work with some of the bigger YouTubers, because I think there's so many people out there that have such great content, but they might be missing a tiny bit of the nerdier side. So while I don't think my content would fit always with theirs, it would be really awesome to just be a pop-in. So yeah, if anybody knows anybody, I've always offered and would always be down to help. Just, you know, make the introduction. Adam Fowler asked, do I know if anybody will be making and selling Voltar's new Sega Bypass board? Fine soldering isn't for you. It isn't really for me either, but this might be a good board to start with if you did want to practice, just because it's way less daunting than a lot of the other ones that are out there. And I'll be trying to make my own as well, so we'll see how bad I screw that up. But to answer your question, I think Mobius Strip Tech had a few for sale, and I think iFix Retro had a few, but I don't know anybody that's going to be carrying them in bulk yet. I keep telling Zach that even though he open sources these projects, it would be totally okay for him to sell them. And it's my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but I think even with an open source project, a lot of people would love to contribute anything, their knowledge, their testing, but still just want to buy it. So hopefully people will start mass producing them, and hopefully I can get Zach to make a bunch for people too. One more from Sterling Ference. He asked if anybody ever released a mega amp install diagram for the CDX or for the Nomad. And he said he tried to write Ace on Twitter, but it didn't get back to me. Depending on when you did that, I think Ace told me he was unplugging from social media for a week to focus on something he was doing, probably school studies. But Ace is a student working his butt off, so if he disappears for a while, that's the reason. I do know of people who did install it in a CDX, but I don't know if they did a diagram. And Voltar said he might be putting one in his CDX. So if that's the case, I'm going to beg him to do a video on it, because it's my opinion that I think any awesome modding videos on a CDX would get a ton of views. I don't know, I don't know if that's true or not, but I would love to see more CDX videos because it's such a neat and unique piece of hardware. Some things about it are awesome, some things are total junk. So installing a mega amp or Renee's triple bypass, which is now sooner than ever to release, or closer than ever to release, I think both would be great ideas. So I'll keep bugging them for it, and just be patient with Ace. I'm sure he'll get back to you. And lastly, Somber said something that I probably should have addressed right when I launched the site, but here's my excuse. The statement was, not a fan of the mid-article advertisements. They're far more intrusive than the old sidebar ads. Yeah, but there's a few things. So those are there to stay, because I'm betting everything on this. I'm trying my best to make this my day job. And without ads, I can't have any money. So that's life. However, not any time will there ever be a pop-up or one of those full-page ads, ever. There's one website I've been reading forever now that the past year, you'd be scrolling through on your phone and the entire phone turns into an ad and you can't get it out. You can't, never, ever, never a pop-up, never an ad that slides with the phone as you're scrolling up. I hate those with a passion. Also, every ad is going to be relevant to the ad. So a couple of things that I've been doing is like, hey, check out these new MSU on audio patches. If you want to play this on a ROM cart, here's a link to the ST to SNES. Like, stuff that I think is fair. So I would love to win the lottery tomorrow, become a billionaire, and take all ads off the site, and do everything for free. But if I'm going to continue to do this more than the short term, it's got to have some kind of income. So while Patreons have kept me going this long, I am looking for a long-term goal, and the end goal would be to not require Patreons anymore. Because while I do love this awesome little community that Patreon creates, and I do love having like insiders that I could ask questions to, if I didn't have to charge anybody money, I would never. I would love to do everything for free if I could. So at the moment, it's going to have to be a combination of Patreon support and ads, and just kind of go from there. So, once again, obviously, thank you to all of you amazing Patreon supporters that make all this stuff happen, because, I wouldn't have gotten this far without you, but to take it to the next level, I have to have ads. That's just all there is to it. But once again, they're never going to be obtrusive, ever. Maybe it sucks that you have to scroll a little further, but it's never going to be one of those ones that just blows up your phone, annoys everything. So hopefully everybody will understand, and people won't get too annoyed with it. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks again for participating, and please keep them coming. Any questions for next week, post down below. And as always, any comments, criticism, or whatever you got. I really like hearing your feedback, and anything I can do to make it more fun for Patreons, please let me know. I know there were still a few ideas that people had that I haven't gotten to yet, but I will get to those as soon as I can. And please keep them flying. I really appreciate it. So see you guys next time.